Ohio State's offseason changes set the stage for a big year.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Thursday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And during today's show, we'll discuss a realistic replacement for the spring game, as well as Ryan Day's plan for spring practice. But first, Ohio State's offseason changes set the stage for a big year. And as Ohio State is coming off of a national championship winning season, and their last game of the 2024 season was on January 20th in 2025. Ryan Day is realizing you can't have the same old offseason. You can't take the same approach. You must take a calculated approach to every single day to make sure your players are recovering from the previous year so they can be fresh for the upcoming season. And it's weird that you're talking about this right now with Ryan Day having to revamp things and change workouts and take a different approach to spring practice, but that's college football. The sport's ever-changing. The portal is going to be different before you know it. The playoff is going to be expanded before you know it. There are going to be multiple automatic qualifiers for some of the power conferences in this sport. No matter what you think about that decision, it's going to happen. And I love how Ryan Day currently is doing the things that he needs to do to stay ahead of the game. Not just as a coach, but also to help the players on the team. When I say coach, I mean the coaching day-to-day operation, things like that. But also the players and making sure the players, the guys that are out there on the field, are preparing their bodies in a different way right now to help them in the future. We saw this a year ago. I mean, Mickey Mariotti was very implemental in making sure Ohio State's players were prepared for a 16 or 17 game season, where I'm sure there are other strength and conditioning coordinators around the country that try to do some things differently, but they realized it's hard to go from playing 12 or 13 games, then have an expanded playoff and realize, well, we might make our conference championship game. We may play 2 or 3 playoff games, and that goes into the middle of January. Man, that's really difficult. I don't know how to really get the guys properly ready for what's coming up next, and they tried their best. They did everything they could in their power, but realizing changing stuff up on the fly like that's really, really hard. I think it's a big reason why Chip Kelly, Tim Walton, Ryan Day's NFL experience was key last year to Ohio State winning the national championship, because they have been there at the highest level and they see what the players do in the offseason. They talk to players and say, what do you do in the offseason in January, February, and March that helps you in November, December, and January? And they could use some of those tools and some of those things that they've realized that they've learned from those guys in the NFL to help Ohio State's players. And it worked out pretty well. I do think what we're going to see right now from winter workouts and as we inch closer to the beginning of spring practice is things be a little dialed back, more dialed back than what they normally would be. We hear all the time about the mat drills during winter workouts and how intense those things can be. You're still recovering. I think about all the time, NBA players and NFL players always talk about after the end of the season, they go away. Some of them go overseas. Some of them just may stay in the States but go somewhere else to just clear their mind and get their mind right, but they go away. They're not around the team facility. They may still work out, but it's not your 2 or 3 a day type of workout. No, they're trying to relax, trying to recuperate, trying to let their body rest for a little bit. The unfortunate thing for some of these Ohio State players is that they don't have the time to rest. Maybe they get a chance to rest their bodies a little, but they can't truly rest their mind. They're in class. Where if you're in the NFL, if you're a professional, you can literally go away with your family or maybe take a solo trip somewhere and just get away. You don't have to worry about going to class. You don't have to worry about the hustle and bustle of life. You don't have to worry about all that stuff. You can just go away, maybe not touch a weight for a month, maybe not do a workout for a month. I've heard of guys that don't do workouts for a month or 2 months. Now, that's not the norm, but there are a lot of guys out there that at the end of an NFL regular season where you're getting done in January, man, they just go away and say, look, I have been doing this and getting my body in the greatest shape it could be in for the season, and now I'm worn down. Man, I'm tired. I got to let myself rest. Ohio State's already working out again for the fall. Like there's no rest for this team. You're a champion, and what are you doing right now? Preparing to be a champion in the upcoming season. You can't rest. No, you can go on social media and you can see pictures. I was on Instagram earlier and scrolling through and saw pictures of Carnell Tate and Brandon Ennis, Jeremiah Smith, and Sonny Styles just grinding and working. The black and white effect of those pictures, I love it. I love it. I love the black and white pictures that we can see circulating around the socials. It's a nice touch that can be great for a lot of pictures. I may start posting some black and white pictures around our home. My wife and I have a couple pictures in black and white, but you may want to have a few more. Color's great. I love color, but I also love a little black and white every now and then too. Ohio State's approach with winter workouts is huge. But I think about setting yourself up for a big year, I can't gloss over the coaching hires. And in my mind for this whole show, it was all the offseason, the spring practice, those things. But Ryan Day also set his team up for massive success with the coaching hires that he had. I said it once, I'll say it again. The Tyler Bowen hire, bringing him in to be the offensive line coach, is huge. When you have Brian Hartline and Keenan Bailey that are going to have that passing attack be so elite, you're going to realize and think to yourself, maybe Hartline was ready before we thought he was. Hey, not sure what side of the fence you're on there, but a lot of people will be there saying, Hartline, you're doing pretty well. But Tyler Bowen with the run game and his ability to get the run game working and also his ability to be an elite recruiter at a position that is, I would say O-line recruiting is the toughest in the country at any school, not just Ohio State, but if you're at Clemson or Alabama or Georgia or USC or filling the big boy school in college football, it's tough. Yeah, you got a Notre Dame. Notre Dame's been an O-line factory even when Brian Kelly was there. Some places just get it done. But a lot of times, you're recruiting your area. You may not even get the number one O-line in your offensive lineman in your state. But then you're recruiting. And it's like, man, why are you going there? Oh, man, it's closer to home. Oh, why are you going there? My mama lives right there. Why are you going there? My uncle played for the school and he lives around the corner. It's a lot of family ties, man, and it's just tough recruiting offensive linemen. But I think Tyler Bowen is just one of those sneakily good hires that you're going to look back at the end of the season saying, huh, good job, Ryan Day. Go clap it up for you right quick. Good job, Ryan Day, because you got it done there. But also the promotion of Matt Guerreri, the promotion of Tim Walton, the promotion of Hartline and Keenan Bailey, keeping Carlos Lachlan, keeping Larry Johnson, but also Matt Patricia. We might have a Matt Patricia show once a week because I think that's one of those things when we did one yesterday talking about Matt Patricia's ability to adapt to the personnel on the team, now forcing those players to change their own personal ways for what he wants to do. I think that's going to be great. And let's just say Matt Patricia takes the same approach that he had with New England and he wants to stay somewhere for a long period of time. Stay at Ohio State. Get your pay raise, get your bonuses, do all the things you want to do as a D coordinator for the Buckeyes. That would be great. Because Matt Patricia could say, oh, well, we got guys that can work on a 4-down look, and I think that'd be great for Ohio State. But also, like we mentioned earlier, you got some guys that could be in a 3-down look, and y'all could be great there too. Matt Patricia's a guy that can work with whatever's there. Let's just say there's a trend of having a more 4-down look, cool. Let's say there's a trend in recruiting to have a more 3-down look, cool. Whatever the trend is, whatever works for the team, Matt Patricia's the guy. I look at Ohio State, what they've done so far throughout the offseason. Ryan Day's knocked it out of the park. He's hired great coaches. He's promoted great coaches. He's gotten quality guys out of the portal. And all of that is setting Ohio State for big success in the fall. To have big success in the fall, the Buckeyes must be successful during the spring. And Ryan Day's taking a very unique approach to spring practice, one that I think you'll like. Attention Locked On Buckeyes fans, the future of college sports is here and it's transparent. Before the Roy app, NIL negotiations often happened under the table in that fans didn't have a clear way to directly support the athletes they love. Now, with Roy, you get to be a part of the change and support Ohio State athletes in the most transparent way possible. Roy, the NIL app, allows you to choose the player you want to support, decide how much to contribute, receive exclusive content from the athletes you back. The best part, if your player transfers, you get your money back. It's a risk-free way to show your support. The Roy app is giving fans control. No more uncertainty. Now you can provide transparent, impactful support and help shape the team and the future of college sports with your contributions. Download the Roy app now from the App Store and start backing Ohio State athletes the way they deserve, with transparency, trust, and a real impact. This is the future of college sports. Join it now by downloading Roy and supporting your favorite players. Thank y'all for tapping Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. One thing I am growing to like more and more about Ryan Day is his ability to adapt. But once he adapts, he's constantly evolving and changing. He doesn't just go down one road to adapt and say, nope, this is the end all be all. We're done moving. He is consistently figuring out ways to stay ahead of the game to keep Ohio State at the top. And one of them is his unique approach to spring practice this year. And what he is doing is something I think is new for Ohio State, but also I think it's one that's going to be it's going to be a big thing for everybody involved. The players, the coaches, some of the analysts that just got hired a day ago. There are going to be a lot of changes we're going to see, and it's a kind of a three-part plan that Ryan Day is utilizing right now to get Ohio State up to speed and to help all levels of the football team. Ryan Day's breaking the team down into 3 separate sections for spring practice. One section, guys who have played a lot of football. The other one, guys who have played some football. The third, guys who just got here. Now, the good thing is there are going to be guys that just got there, but they were able to see what it takes to prepare for a national semifinal game. And also, they were able to see what it takes to prepare and to play in a national championship game by being right there on the sideline. Guys like Tavian St. Clair and Devin Sanchez and Bo Jackson and Turbo Rogers. I don't think Turbo Rogers was there, but there are some other incoming freshmen that were there. And I think this breaking things down this way, you played a lot, you played some, or you ain't playing at all, you just got there. That's going to help everybody at their current level, but also allow Ohio State to hit the details in a different way. It's almost, and I don't like saying it like this, it's almost like varsity JV and freshmen in high school, but it's different because it's college, and these guys, like your freshmen at Ohio State, some of them would start at other schools around the country. Like a Devin Sanchez, if he went to, not at Ohio State, but at a school out there, I mean, he could play a G5, started a G5 school, probably started a bottom tier Big Ten school. He's that talented. So what Ohio State is doing is saying, you just got here. You being a part of this group is not a knock on your talent. It's just saying, this is your introductory course. This is 101 of Ohio State football. This is what we do during spring practice. Now, here's the weird thing about this. And the thing about these 3 separate groups, you played a lot, you played some, or you just got here. None of the quarterbacks have been played a lot of football. So if I am Jeremiah Smith or Brandon Ennis, who's throwing the rock to me during practice? Because by definition of these classifications, ain't none of the 3 quarterbacks, none of them fit the description of someone that's played a lot of football. Now, there will be team periods, I'm sure, and there's going to be someone that's QB1 and QB2 in those situations. But for Ryan to break the team up like this is going to bring a lot of competition. Because imagine what he's talking about here. CJ Donaldson just got on campus. CJ Donaldson has played a lot of football. See what I'm saying? Logan George just got on campus. Logan George just played a lot of football. Max Clair just got on campus. Max Clair was also the best tight end of the Big Ten a year ago. So it's going to be very, very interesting about and how this goes, because you could have Donaldson in the just got here tier with James Peoples, and that's going to make that competition a whole lot more intense. You could have a scenario where Devin Sanchez is working with some guys that were a little. Now, you may want to say James Peoples might be in the played some football because he's played a little bit of football. But if Donaldson's down there with the guys that just got there, that's a situation where it's trying to be like, look, I know you've been here for a little bit, but buddy, I've been playing football for 3 years in college. I know what it takes. I'm a 2,000-yard rusher in my career so far. Might be 3,000 at the end of the season. I know I just got here, but I'm coming for your spot. This is huge. I don't know if this is a good way to say this is a hierarchy of guys that have played a lot, guys that are played a little, and guys that just got there. You can't look at this and say, well, this is the breakdown of who's going to start and who's not going to start. There's no way, because by definition of these categories, that's not how things work. But I'm just curious, though. Let's think about this for a little bit. Let's spitball at the top of our heads. Who are some guys that have been at Ohio State that might be in the category of played some football, but might be a guy that plays a lot of football in the fall? Jermaine Matthews Jr. has played a lot of football. I know he didn't start, but he has played a lot of football at Ohio State. James Peoples played some football. Sam Williams-Dixon played some football. TC Coffee played some football. But those guys could be guys that are in rotation in the fall. At receiver, Mylan Graham really hadn't played, but he's been there. Now, I don't think you're going to put a guy that's been there but hadn't really played in the just got here tier, but they could. Think about what that would do for Mylan Graham. And to see his competitive nature, to see some things that you want to get pulled out of him as a player, do that. Jason Moore played a little bit of football. He'll be in that middle tier. But Jason Moore's a guy that I do think is going to be someone that's going to play a lot in the fall. Edric Houston played some football. Hadn't played a... It's the weird thing. What's the cutoff? Because when I think of Edric Houston, think of guys who played a little bit of football, played some, but down the stretch, he played a whole lot more than I thought he was going to. So maybe in Ryan Day's situation, he's played a lot of football. It's going to be very interesting to see in spring practice, which is a little bit different this year. It starts, I believe, exactly 8 weeks after Ohio State's national championship win on January 20th, where Ohio State used to have a couple practices before spring break. Then a break for the spring, come back after spring break was concluded, and then resume spring practice. I always found that odd. For us on the show, we got a couple days of practice, and it was great to utilize that to carry us the next 5 days. And then all of a sudden, it's like, no, we're having to wait. I think for the players, it's great to wait. Absolutely. I don't really see a need to have a practice or two before spring practice and then close up shop and then come back a week. Like that doesn't make any sense to me. It never made any sense. So Ryan Day, once again, his ability to adapt and to make some great offseason changes. One of them is moving spring practice back a little bit. The spring showcase is going to be weird. I'm not going to lie to you. I am used to a spring game. I am a football junkie. One thing I love locally as I cover high school football is to get out to the 5 high schools in the county where I live and to go out to a practice and to watch those boys work and to talk to them, get to know those players and get to know those coaches and do some preseason interviews. I love that, man. I love ball. I mean, literally, I think today my son and I are going to go to a training camp for a third tier pro league in America. I say third tier because a player in the league called it that year ago. It goes NBA, the G League, and then the basketball league. It's literally the name of it. David Magley used to play for the Kansas Jayhawks, and I think he had played in the NBA as well. Him and his wife are the owners of the league, and I'm looking forward to watching ball, man. I love watching high-level basketball, high-level football. Man, I love sports. I love the spring game, and I'm one of those fans that didn't normally and has not been to the shoe that much at all. No, I haven't been there very much. So the fact that the spring showcase may take away the scrimmage part of the spring game, that's a little odd. I mean, as someone like myself, I would love to just go there and watch a scrimmage. I love watching that kind of stuff. Not watch anything, man, but I just love watching football and scrimmages. But it's going to be interesting. The offseason change, that was in particular, is going to be a big one. It's going to help Ohio State have a big year, trust me. I'm not here to try to say it and manifest it. I just believe that Ohio State is going to learn a lot of things from what happened last year, things that worked and things that didn't work, and they'll use that to be successful in the fall. One thing that might replace the spring game in future seasons is one thing that's been on my head for quite a while, and I think it's something that Ryan Day and other college football coaches might pursue very soon. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. So one thing I do every off season is have my guy Jeff on the show, and then Mo Murphy, and Coach Mo Murphy now coaching basketball down there in Texas. And we talk about different offseason topics, things we like, things we don't like, and players that we think will emerge, and things of that nature. I don't know if it was Mo or Jeff, but one of the two guys I've thrown the idea off their heads about Ohio State playing a preseason game. Now, at the time, it was not in replace of the spring game. It was spring game in April, and then you have a preseason game in August, and that game would not be so close to the regular season that it's our preseason game, and then we're going right and playing the following week. No, there would be a gap in between that. The NFL, I think, does a very smart job with that, where you have your final preseason game a week off, and then the NFL regular season starts. I think it's very, very good, and I think Ohio State should pursue that. Should pursue, if you're going to change some things with the spring game. Let's say Ohio State does, and Ryan Day and Matt Rule are on the same path, that you may not want to have a spring game because schools could look at your guys and look at how they played and say, oh, we want that guy to go into the portal. We want him to play for us, and that'll give them more film on that player that they want. Cool. I think playing a group of 5 school in August, the middle of August, middle of fall camp, would be huge. Absolutely huge. You would get better week 1 play from players. Now, the matchups in week 1 are going to be bangers sometimes. It's not a phrase I normally use. I don't know where that came from. But that's one. Those matchups will be huge. Trust me, you're getting Ohio State, Texas this year. Come on now. What you got, Notre Dame, Ohio State in 2022? Come on now. I mean, sometimes down to the south, they get Clemson and Georgia. That's an old-time rivalry that's recently came back. It's been a neutral site flavor. I wish it was in Athens and then in Clemson, South Carolina, because those fans of those teams deserve to have that big-time rivalry played in a home stadium. That's what they're made for. I like neutral site games at the end of the year in the bowl season. Trust me, man. Play those things on campuses. Just do it. I know that down there in the South, they have the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, and it's Florida and Georgia playing in Jacksonville, which is basically a de facto home game for the Gators, because Gainesville and Jacksonville, Florida are not that far apart. But wouldn't it be a whole lot more fun if that game was played in Athens and the game was played in the swamp down there in Gainesville? Absolutely. Let me get back to the task at hand. I don't know how I got off that. But I do think that Ohio State would benefit from playing a G5 school. Have that team come to you. You still pay that check to them. Now, you want to say, Jay, you're not going to make a lot of money. Trust me, there are so many sponsors out there that will put their money on that game and say, look, you need 4 sponsors, $250,000 a piece to sponsor this game to make it happen. Great. You're not asking for $1 million from one company. No, even though companies got it. We need 4 companies, $250,000 to make $1 million. We're going to give that check to the school that are playing in the preseason. It's going to help them get up to speed. It's going to help us get up to speed. It's going to help us compete. There are so many massive benefits to that. You can't play that game and all of a sudden, come to the portal. Man, the portal doesn't open for about 4 months after that. So, no, there's no risk of that guy going into the portal, because the portal's going to open shortly after the game is played. But I think that preseason game at that part of the year would be huge. You could also play a high-level FCS school if you wanted to. Still cut that check. They're still coming to you. But what do you have? More of a NFL model. One thing, I'm hearing this from word of mouth. I haven't listened to Matt Patricia's interview with Julian Edelman yet. I have it on my phone. I actually recently downloaded it to listen to that tomorrow. But one thing I know about the college game, as Matt Patricia said on that interview, is that it's more similar to the pro game than it's ever been. And one thing I think players would love to have in the fall before the week 1 game is to hit somebody other than your teammate. Man, I remember them days when I was playing football and we had 2-a-days in the hot summer heat that we had. It was 2-a-days. We had practice from like 7 to 10, and then all of a sudden we had a little break. We went back at it. We went back, maybe it was 7 to 9:30. Went back an hour and a half, 2 hours later, had more practice, and all of a sudden, what do? You go home. But I remember, man, by about day 3 of practice, may have been the third practice in total, which would be that Tuesday morning. We start on a Monday. Man, I was tired of hitting the same guys over and over. It was one of my buddies, Dan Jones, and Dan always was known for getting into it, man, with somebody. I ain't mad about you. Look, I played football for a long time. I know how it is when you get out there in that heat. You've been doing the same thing over and over and over. You're a high school kid, and all of a sudden that dude that annoys you, y'all go at it all the time. He gets the best of you, and you get mad, and all of a sudden y'all start going at it. You get a week of that. And a week and a half of that, you're like, man, I'm tired of this dude, man. I want to hit somebody else. And I guarantee there are guys at Ohio State during fall camp, they get tired of hitting the same guy over and over and over. And all they want to do is see somebody else on the other side of the line with a different color jersey on and go at that person's head and attack them like they would the Georgia Bulldogs in the playoff. Why? Because they're competitors. It's also going to help the game planning and the coaching, and it's going to help Heartline. I know it's not going to happen this year. It's too late in the game to make that thing happen. It's not. I just know they won't. I truly think this is realistic. The trouble I find with having a preseason game in college football, if it's a preseason game, a week off, and then week 0, the issue I find is you're not going to get uniformity by all the coaches, and all the coaches will not be in sync with this. It will be a conference by conference thing until college football gets a commissioner and a governing body. You're going to have the SEC do different than the Big Ten, and both of those could do different than the ACC, and those 3 could do different than the Big 12. Then you have Notre Dame, who's an independent. Who care? I don't really care if Notre Dame's independent or not. They're going to do their own thing. They're going to have the G5 conferences. You're going to have the FCS level, which is truly governed by the NCAA. I don't really hear anybody say the NCAA does a bad job of governing the FCS level. They run a playoff. Let's expand that against a 2014 playoff. For those of you that are in the expansion, to say let more people in to allow more teams to win the national championship. The same teams win the FCS playoff every single year. So if you're trying to get away from having, let's say you're a fan of a different team tapping into Locked on Buckeyes here on a Thursday. Let's just say you're a fan of a team and you're trying to say, man, expand this thing so my team can get in there and win. All it's going to do is give the same old teams a better chance of winning. It's a better chance of more games. Yes. But Boise State is not on Ohio State's level. Arizona State's not on Ohio State's level. Penn State made it to the national semifinal. Ain't on Ohio State's level. So while you're playing more games, knock you off. What are you going to do? It's still going to be Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, USC, Texas, Clemson. Those same old teams. The team up north, probably not going to be there because they're not on that level either. It's going to be the same old thing. Same old song and dance. Change something up, man. I think for the preparation piece of it, I think coaches would love to have their game plan set and have a full game week preparation in a preseason format than to do that in a scrimmage and then to have week 1 with some new guys on the coaching staff, a revamped roster at times, and then do that week 1, especially when your first matchup of the season is against the Texas Longhorns. It's not realistic right now because I know how things work in college football, and the decision makers would drag their feet to make that change. But I hope down the road we find a place where all the power schools make agreements with some of the smaller schools in the sport to go out there and to play a preseason game. I think it's realistic, even for the broadcasters. I think they would love it. Do you think Fox would love to have an Ohio State fill-in-the-blank preseason game? Absolutely. Because what does Ohio State do? They fill the stands when those boys are in the shoe, and they bring eyeballs when those boys are on the television screen. Trust me. There's a reason why Fox is at Ohio State's spring game last year to make that thing the first spring game aired on Fox or what was his not first spring game on national TV because Alabama's been on ESPN before. Maybe the first one on broadcast TV or whatever those networks. I don't know, man. I don't know the correct terminology of the ABC, CBS, Fox, and all that good stuff. I don't know all the terminology. I do know this though. these TV companies will be chomping at the bit to get these teams on those networks in the fall. When during the dog days of summer, it's baseball, 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 baseball. I love summer baseball, but I love Ohio State football more. Thank y'all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes here on a Thursday. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. You can send every email to jstevens317 at gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Thursday. We'll see you next time.